Hello everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. If you haven't seen one of these before, I do it every Friday, usually at 2:30 UK time, so just as US markets are opening. We'll take a look at some of the major announcements coming out next week. Then we'll look at a mix of markets, indices, Bitcoin, oil, gold, some FX markets. And then we look at anything you want to look at. So if there's any stuff you want looking at, put it in the chat, the YouTube chat live. We'll do some trades as we're going along, maybe, if there's anything interesting. I've got the YouTube trading account down here with real money. It's not a demo account, it's my money. So we'll put some trades on if there's anything interesting. We've just had the payrolls, or an hour ago we had the payrolls. I think the number came in around about 140,000 jobs were added. And the expectation was for 170,000, I think, something like that. Yeah, 143,000 jobs added in January. The usual volatility over it. This is the S&P. This is where the number came out. Bit of volatility, quite a bit of volatility. And then a bit headless chicken, but the market has pushed higher as US markets open. So let's see. Let's see what it all means. It's been an interesting week, though. I thought what was really interesting this week, this is Sunday night's open in the out of hours, started like last week did with a big sell-off. You know, we had the market reaction early Monday to the tariffs imposed by Mr. Trump, President Trump, I should say. I thought it was odd, the reaction, because it's not as if the tariffs were a surprise, you know, but we saw a knee-jerk sell-off by markets. What was interesting was they held above last Monday's lows, or last Monday's lows, where we had the sell-off due to the Chinese DeepSeek AI doodah sell-off. And then we had markets recover, boom, boom. And this week we've had markets recover, boom, boom, as well. So, yeah, a funny old week. So that's where we are. That was last Friday's high, 61.10 on the S&P. So we're about 25 points away from that at the moment. What's the Nasdaq look like? Oh, the Nasdaq's nearly back to last Friday's high. Oh, 10 points in it. A mere 10 points, a mere bagatelle. So let's see. Interesting to see how these markets finish the week. So blah, blah. Yeah, that's that. So UK interest rates came out this week as well. A cut to UK interest rates. I've been long the UK gilt since earlier in the week, still in that. Let's see how that does. Gold has had an amazing run. I was in gold. I came out of it yesterday. But gold has hit all-time highs. So we'll take a look at that as well, see what that all means. And the price of oil is still sliding. So, yeah, we'll have a look at all of this stuff in more detail in a sec and see if there's any trades to do. And like I say, if there's anything you want looking at, put it in the chat. I'm a bit under the weather today. I think there is a bit of bugginess going around, but I'm going to soldier on because it's the Friday live stream. Right, let's get some housekeeping done. Let's just do a risk warning. This presentation is only for educational purposes. It does not contain and should not be construed as containing investment advice or an investment recommendation or an offer of or solicitation for a transaction in any financial instrument. David Jones accepts no responsibility for any use that may be made of these comments and for any consequences that result. You should consider whether you understand how spread bets, CFDs, futures, foreign exchange work, and whether you can afford to take the high risk of losing your money. Trading is risky. There we go. Let's have a look at next week. So it's a quieter week next week, but there's still some big things to watch. Probably the biggest, I guess, is Wednesday's US inflation data. So CPI, Consumer Price Inflation Index, whatever it is. So that's on Wednesday. Inflation, still very much a big topic. You know, we've had rate cuts from the EU and the UK recently. Let's see how inflation is and how that all looks on Wednesday. So that's the big one, I think, for next week. But then on Thursday, we've got UK GDP. That will be interesting, I think, to see what that number looks like. How is the UK economy doing? You know, we did have the central bank, Bank of England, cut rates this week. And also, I'm just trying to find the story on the BBC. The bank has slashed its forecast. So the economy is now expected to grow by 0.75% in 2025, down from 1.5%. So it's cut it by 50%, cut its target by 50%, or its forecast by 50%. So yeah, so it'll be interesting to see next week what that UK growth figure looks like and how that impacts the pound and gilts and perhaps the FTSE a bit as well. And then on Thursday we've got US producer price index. Again, it's sort of an inflation-y type measure, so that could have an impact. And on Friday we've got the GDP for the Eurozone, which again I think will be interesting. So it is an interesting week, and I think Wednesday is going to be the big one, US inflation, but those other announcements could be important as well. Right, blah, blah. That's all that done. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's get into the markets. Let's start off with stock markets. It's still bullish, you know. The trends are still up. It's been a bit of a, you could say, a bit of a scrappy couple of months, bit of chopperama going on. You know, I think these markets will get interesting again if we see a breakout to all-time highs again. Perhaps that gets rid of some of the nerves or the cautiousness we've experienced in the last couple of months. I'll certainly be buying again the S&P and the NASDAQ if it breaks out to all-time highs for my longer term stuff. You know, I've talked in the past, most of my pension and ISA is NASDAQ and S&P exchange traded funds. I've got a very simple approach to investing, and one of those is if the market goes out to all-time highs, then I buy some more. And it's been a good approach, you know, over the years. It doesn't say it's going to carry on working, but let's see what happens. So for me, you know, next week, do we see these markets break out to all-time highs again? We're not that far away at the moment. Let's see what happens next week. But overall, you know, the market, I put it in the WhatsApp group. I run a WhatsApp group, and I put it in the WhatsApp group this week. You know, you could view the market in two ways. You could say, you know, we've had these sharp falls at the beginning of the last 2 weeks. So you could say, well, this is quite a nervous market now, you know, the US stock markets, because any bit of news that might be bad, it's a big panic and head for the exits. So you could say, nervy market. The other thing you could say, though, is it's a strong market, because whenever it gets knocked by these, by various bits of news, gets bought back very quickly. So as ever, there are two sides to the market. I am still, you know, very much in the bullish camp because the market's going up, blah, blah, blah. The trend is up, all that sort of stuff. So let's see. In February, do we get a breakout to all-time highs? I think we will. But let's wait and see what happens. But overall, all still positive there. Let's see what happens up at these highs from last Friday if we get there. Yeah, no real change to me. Same for the NASDAQ. You know, the NASDAQ, if you look at the NASDAQ, we had all-time highs in the NASDAQ back in December, up around 22,100 and a bit. Let's see if these get broken. You know, the market is less than 400 points away from that at the moment. 400 points is not much on the NASDAQ. So let's see where that is next week. So I'm still positive. What's the Dow look like? The Dow is just below the all-time highs. So blah, blah, blah. Same again there. Let's see if we get the breakout. So it's been a bit of a choppy couple of months for US stock indices, but overall, still positive. I've not traded them much, nowhere near as much as I did in the last 6 months of last year. I've done some trades on individual US stocks. We'll have a look at those as well. But yeah, it's all still the same as far as I'm concerned. So there you go. FTSE, the most boring stock market index in the world, has been not boring in the last 6 weeks. So we had this breakout on the FTSE in January to all-time highs, and then another move to all-time highs yesterday. So, you know, that's pretty major because the FTSE does spend a lot of time doing nothing over the years. So interesting to see, is this break the start of a new trend in the FTSE? The last time we had a major break in the FTSE, a breakout higher, was back in April last year. We had a bit of an excitement for about 3 weeks, and then it went sideways for the next 7 months, 8 months. So let's see what happens with this one. But, you know, breakouts are positive. It's been a positive week for the FTSE. Let's see what happens here for the rest of February. But overall, you know, I'd be a buyer of the dip in the FTSE. I don't trade the FTSE much because it is historically a bit boring. But I'd be a buyer of the dip in the FTSE. If I was a buyer today, I'd want to stop the other side of 8,400 if I was trying to position myself for a bigger move higher. If I thought there was going to be more strength to come in the FTSE, that's where my stop would be at the moment. So interesting to see how this all resolves in Feb. Do we see the FTSE get a bit of a move on, or does it die a death again and just go sideways? Let's see. DAX, the old Germans, doing really well. I mean, the DAX has had a pretty amazing year so far. I mean, it closed, where did it close last year? It closed at 19,827, and here we are at 21,887. So that's 2,000. That's a 2,000 point move. That's a 10% move in the DAX. Well, there you go. Almost 10% move in the DAX since the beginning of the year. So it's a big old move. So, breaks out, rallies, breaks out again yesterday, and it has actually nudged to fresh all-time highs today. So again, I'd be a buyer of the dip in the DAX. I looked at something, again in the WhatsApp group. If I show you, let's see if I can get it up. Who are those people? Let me have a look. Germany, I was looking at on a popular broker. Why can't I get the... hold on a second. Sentiment on the DAX. Let's have a look at that. Bear with me. Here we go. Suspense is killing you, isn't it? Oh, it's flipped actually. So it was earlier this week. Hang on, let me find this, right? Or was it... Hold on a second. This will be worth the wait, trust me. I showed the reason why most people lose. So when was it? Here we go. I'm not explaining this very well, am I? When did I put it in the WhatsApp group? Here we go. On Tuesday of this week, this was client sentiment with a popular major broker on the DAX. So if we go back to Tuesday, if I show you on the chart, Tuesday was here, 21,500. So since then, the market's climbed about 400 points. 78% of people were short. Okay, it's a big reason why people lose. They see a massive trend and they go against it. So 78% was short the DAX. Absolutely ludicrous. It's flipped now. It seems to be 60% long. So we had a bit of a flip around. But it's a clear, for me, a clear uptrend in the DAX. If we had a bit of a wobble next week, interesting to see what happens. But I'd be a buyer of the dip, obviously, in the DAX because the old trend is up, isn't it? So there you go. So that's the DAX. The Italians, mamma mia, I think they are. Yeah, they're breaking out as well. Yeah, well done, Italy. So all-time highs for the old Italian index. Today as well, so that's all positive. So yeah, that's it. Strong performance, strong start to the year for stock markets. I saw Kevin mentioned the Hang Seng. Let's have a look at the Hang Seng. I think I've missed that in the Hang Seng, because I've been saying whenever we've looked at the Hang Seng and the China A50, which we'll look at in a second. Is this the year of recovery? We had that nuts move in September, bang, bang, bang. It's cooled off a bit. If I'd have been paying attention, I should have been a buyer about 19,000, and here we are at 21,000. So for me, the trend in the Hang Seng is up. I should buy a dip, and that's the dip I should have bought from a longer term perspective. So absolutely, I'd be a buyer of the dip. Would I buy it here? Probably not. If we get a dip as February goes on, I'll pay a bit more attention and be a buyer then. But, again, I can't argue with that trend in the Hang Seng over the last 12 months. And here we are, the trend is up. China A50 has been a bit more muted. Yeah, so China A50, massive downtrend from Feb 21 into 2024. That nutty move in September. Maybe that's a trading idea. Buy the China A50 with a stopper. I mean, that's maybe an idea for a longer term investment. I might have a look at that later. Buy the China A50, stop at 12,000, and see what this year looks like for the China A50. But the Hang Seng absolutely has been a good performer indeed. So yeah, so that's that. But the Nikkei, not so much. The Japanese market. There's lots of exciting things happening with European markets. Not so much for the old Japanese market. So all a bit sideways, really. Japanese market. Aussie market, I'm waiting to buy that. I did a good trade on that last year. Sat on it for like 6 months, from May into December. But that had a look out to fresh all-time highs on Saturday. That can't be Saturday. Must be Friday. Had a look on Monday maybe. Had a look out to fresh all-time highs. The Australian 200 index has dipped. Do we get a move out next week? So again, I'd be a buyer of that next week, assuming we see fresh all-time highs again next week in the old Aussie doodah. So yeah, that's that. That's the stock market indices. So still broadly positive. It'd be good if US markets broke to fresh all-time highs. Let's see what next week brings. Let's talk about gold. I mean, what a run that's had. I was in the trade from 2,742 on gold back. Where was it? Down here it was, from a week last Monday or maybe a week last Tuesday, whenever. So I bought it. Great trend up. Got taken out yesterday on a trading stop. I mean, what a run that's had, gold. I mean, what's gold done this year then? So let's go back to the beginning of the year for gold. So it ended the year last year at 26.24, and here we are at 28.26. So 250, almost 10% move, 8% move or something like that in gold this year. So a big move is there. So that's that. Trend is up, all the usual. Yeah. So for me, I'd be a buyer of the dip in gold. If it broke out today, later on today, and I wanted to buy it today, so if it broke 28.82 later on today, I'd put a stop the other side of 28.30 at least, which is yesterday's low. So yeah, I mean, that's had a great run, the price of gold. Silver, what's silver done? Was a funny one, silver, isn't it? I mean, silver has rallied. There's nothing too exciting for me in silver. That trend is up, I would say, since a year ago. Bang, 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 bang. There was a buy the dip opportunity down here at 29, but you know, gold is clearly the stronger performer out of the two precious metals. And let's have a look at the dollar index. This has been a funny market, I think, this dollar index. We've had the trend since October, September, October up, been correcting. I've been waiting for a bounce. So it's been correcting since the middle of January. We had a big move again on Sunday night, Monday morning, because of the tariffs. Big gap. The trade was, in retrospect, I did think about it, but I didn't do it, was to sell that gap opening. And the market just sold off again into Wednesday, you know, dropped 250 points from the high on Monday. And we're back again to what had been support. Let's see what the dollar does next week. I would still be leaning towards buying a dip. Of course, this weakness in the dollar has helped lift the price of gold. So yeah, let's see what next week brings for the dollar. I still think there'll be a bounce, but at the moment, it's all a bit too messy for me to do anything about that. So let's see what that is like. What else are we going to look at? Copper. I saw Nick mention copper. Copper's had a right old move, isn't it? If you look on the dailies, let me just take this off for a second, this trend line. On the dailies, not much has changed. You know, we're still in this overall sideways since July on copper. So there's not too much exciting there for me, even though the bigger trend is up. So absolutely, for the last 2.5 years, the big trend for copper has been up. So I would be a buyer of the dip. You know, this 394 has been a clearly good support for the price of copper. But it's been on a right old move this month, actually. So it's gone from 415 to 457. So a 10% move in copper. Just this week, 10% move in copper. There you go. So that's maybe an interesting one to watch next week. Again, I wouldn't buy it now, personally. Maybe you would, but for me, I'd rather buy a dip. Let's see what happens with copper next week. Interesting to see what happens up at these old levels. Let's call it 470. They're the highs since last summer. Do we see it run out of steam again? I don't know. Let's see what happens up there. Let's have a look at the old Bitcoin. A bit sideways overall, bit dull. I still wonder, have we seen, you know, peak for the cryptos for a bit? I don't know. But for now, you know, we had that all-time high mid-December. Had a little look in Jan, couldn't hold it, and we're back into this sidewaysy thing. I'd still be a buyer of the dip. You know, I'd have a stop below 85 if I was buying off the dailies on Bitcoin. So blah, really, with that, to be honest. So nothing too exciting for me there with that one. I saw someone mention euro dollar. Let's take a look at the euro and the pound against the dollar. A bit scrappy, because obviously looking at that dollar index, we're seeing quite scrappy moves in the dollar index a little bit this week. So a bit scrappy for euro dollar. What would you do? Well, I think if you were of the view the trend had this downtrend since last September was over, you could be a buyer. Yeah, there's an argument to be a buyer of the euro against the dollar. And if I was doing that, I would put my stop below the low for the year. The low for the year is 1.017 on this chart. So is that pretty much 1, isn't it? No, it's not. It's higher than 1. Okay, 1. Let's say we go 101.50 for a stop. So if I was a buyer now at 103.85, stop at 101.50, that is a 235 point stop to see, does the market recover? So I think that's an idea. I would probably still be leaning towards the trend for euro dollar being down. Yeah, we had this high on the way down from early December. So at the moment, I would be in no rush to call the bottom of the euro against the dollar. But I think that is absolutely an interesting trading idea. If somebody thought we had seen the worst for the euro and we're going to get a dollar bounce from here, euro bounce, from here, that's maybe interesting to see what happens. Pound against the dollar, 125 has been a problem. It had a very brief look, 125.20, very brief look through that yesterday. But again, pound against the dollar, is that downtrend over? Or is it just having a little bit of a pause before it decides to go racing lower again? I don't know. So I think a bit tricky for me, the FX markets at the moment. I'm still long sterling yen, which is doing the square root of nothing at the moment. So yeah, with this dollar sort of scrappiness, I think it's all a bit tricky at the moment for me. The currencies, there are perhaps more interesting markets for me at the moment. So that's that. Oil, I've been waiting for this bounce in oil, and it is not happening. Let's clear this stuff up. So I traded oil beginning of the year, caught a bit of the move up, a few dollars move up there, and then it started selling off, and I thought, I wonder if we'll get a bit of a bounce in oil, but it's not happening. The trend is still down. That's a very badly drawn trend line, but you get the idea. Just yesterday, it slipped to new lows for the year, slipped to its lowest since end of December, 30th of December. I still think, do we get the bounce in oil? But it has the rallies, and the rallies just fade. Classic downtrend stuff, So interesting, still weak oil. If you look on the dailies, a bit boring. I think for a while now, oil. This is going back to July 2023. And you can see, particularly since last September, it's just all a bit sideways, isn't it? So what did it do in the Ukraine when the Ukraine war started? So 130. So it's not quite halved from those 2022 highs, but it's down $60. It's down a good 40% off those 2022 highs, the price of oil. So it's all a bit boring. So yeah. So that's it really. Not much else there. Natural gas again. I would be a buyer of natural gas. It's been a bit of a scrappy sort of month or so, but this 345 level, the old highs from Jan 24, so far at least, are supporting the price, but it's all been a bit dull, I think. But I'd still be a buyer. 345 held again, but just a bit scrappy. So not too much exciting going on there. What else is moving? Other markets, coffee is still, look at the move in coffee. All right, so coffee broke out in the last week of January at 352. Here we are at 406. So coffee's done, what's that, about 15%, something like that, 12, 15% in the last few weeks, the price of coffee, which does make me think, if you look at some of these commodities, coffee is one example, and if you look at corn, the run in corn, where's corn? There we go. The run in corn, so September was 360, and here we are at 480. So that's a 40% rise, 40% rise in corn. Cattle, the old cows, have had a good run. A lot of these agricultural commodities have seen some strength, some significant strength. And I just wonder, will we see that start feeding through into inflation? Will inflation start becoming a problem again? Who knows? But I think it's interesting to keep an eye on some of these commodities because we are seeing some relatively big moves. Does that mean inflation's going to rear its ugly head as the year goes on? I don't know. Let's see. So that's it really. So for me next week, so at the moment I'm long gilts, UK gilts. Didn't talk about those, but I'm long gilts. I think that's been interesting. You know, we had, for those of us in the UK, we had all that, you know, all those big horror stories 2 or 3 weeks ago about the level that gilts had fallen to, you know, and how expensive yields were on government debt and blah, blah, blah. But what we haven't had is the story about the recovery. So yields have gone down, the price of gilts has gone up. I'm still in gilts. Let's see how that pans out next week. You know, but that's had a good run off the mid-Jan lows. So that's a market I'm watching. Gold is interesting because, I mean, it's just been pretty phenomenal. I think that run in gold for the year so far. So that's interesting. DAX, because that has definitely been one of these stronger stock markets around at the moment. And these US markets, which are having a good day so far. To see if we get the break to all-time highs. So yeah, lots going on. And oil as well. Does this downtrend finally end? But it's not so far. But yeah, lots going on stocks. I've got a few individual stock trades. What did we look at yesterday? I mentioned Goldman Sachs in the group yesterday. I thought that was interesting. That's higher again today. Well done me. But the Goldman Sachs has had a great run. All-time highs in that. I've got a few other stocks. This one got hit a bit on the what was that on the DeepSeek stuff. And that Costco, one of Nick's old favourites, has done well, out to fresh all-time highs. Visa is doing really well. Capital One, bought that the other week, been a bit sideways, needs to get a move on. I bought Apple earlier this week. I thought it was interesting. You know, Apple hit all-time highs in December at 260, got knocked back. So my bet is that we'll see all-time highs in Apple again. Broadridge Financial Solutions bought that because it was breaking out. So there's lots of interesting stuff going on with US stocks, individual stocks, even if the US indices have been a little bit scrappy over the last month. So that's it. You know, as usual, lots to watch next week. Let's see. So now what we'll do is look at the stuff you want looking at. Before that though, a commercial break. I'm doing another webinar. I haven't booked the date yet, but it will be probably the week after next. The last webinar I did was long-term trading, the benefits of longer-term position trading, what to look for, managing risk, riding the trend, adding to positions, how to start. And I did that for those in the WhatsApp group. The next webinar I'll do, I was thinking about it today, I'm going to do one on trading US stocks, my approach to trading US stocks. So I'll do that probably the week after next on the Wednesday or Thursday evening. If you want to attend the webinar and have access to the recording of this webinar from January, join the WhatsApp group. I don't think I pushed the WhatsApp group enough. It's really good. If you join it for a month using the YouTube discount, you pay 40 quid. It's very rare that people are only in it for a month, so they clearly see the benefits of it. They're in it for many months, some people. And if you join the WhatsApp group, you can have access to the next webinar and you'll have access to the recording of that webinar. Every morning I talk about markets that I'm looking at because I've got a tiny attention span. I can't remember what I talked about this morning, but this morning it was obviously all about the payrolls anyway, so waiting for those to come out of the way. But I talked about US indices every day, the DAX, dollar index, UK gilts, coffee and orange juice is what I talked about this morning. I talk about the trades I'm in the afternoon. I talk about US indices if they're interesting or individual stocks. You know, I mentioned the Goldman Sachs yesterday as an interesting one, and that's pushed higher today. So it's not a signal service, but it's like this, the live stream thing, but written down and me talking about stuff every day and talking about the trades I'm in, answering any questions as they come in, doing these webinars. So it's a lot of value for the initial 40 quid a month. And then if you hate it, you can stop after a month. But most people don't hate it, which is good. I'm happy about it. So join the WhatsApp group for that. Why is that not working? There you go. Use the code YouTube. The link is in the description and you can have access to all of that stuff there. If you want to find out who I trade with, go to bit.ly/David Trade. Happy to recommend this as a company to trade with. Tight spreads. You can trade really small if you want to, which is very important, I think, for people who are new to trading or who don't have thousands and thousands of pounds to trade with. And any questions, drop me an email. dj@davidjonestrading.co.uk. But join the WhatsApp group for a month. It's 40 quid. It's like a cup of coffee a day. Not even that. Yeah? And it's brilliant. So do that and you have access to all these webinars. Right, let's take a look at the stuff you want looking at. Let's have a look. Oh, these markets have suddenly come off a bit, reversed. Anyway, whatever. What can we have a look at? Take-Two flying from earnings last night. I was in these last year. Take-Two Interactive, I think, isn't it? Is the doodah, the company name. Oh, wow, look at that. Yeah, they're flying, and it's one of those. It'd be great if I was in it. Would I buy it now? No. But one for next week for me. But yeah, that's great. If anybody's in that, well done. The trend has been up anyway. Yeah, nice. But I would be waiting for the dip as usual. Does 215 end up being a problem next week? Who knows? Let's see. Can we check MTUM ETF? Do you invest long-term in ETFs like that? I don't invest in ETFs like that because I don't know what it is. Oh, do you know, I do remember these. I think I did. Years ago, USA Momentum Factor ETF. If it's a similar one to the one I'm thinking of, it's the one that tries to pick, I can't even remember what the criteria is, but it picks the stronger stocks in the US market. And it does go through periods of doing well, then periods of not doing very well. So in the end, I went back to just my normal S&P 500 and NASDAQ ETFs. But let's have a look at that. And let's find out a bit more about this one, because this is interesting. MTUM ETF. What's the story with it? What is the story with that one? US Momentum Fund. That's the one. Right. Here we go. So what's the criteria for this particular ETF? Exposure to large and mid-cap US stocks exhibiting relatively higher price momentum. And what do they base that on then? What did it do last year? All right, it did. Okay, so it absolutely did outperform the S&P last year. Did 32.88%, but only did 5.8% over the last 3 years. Right, what I'm going to do is be terribly modern and use Doodah, Copilot, the AI, to see what the S&P performance is. I haven't spelled that way right. Well, give me the total 3-year performance. Yes, 3-year. I'm not very patient. Can't type either. Total 3-year performance. 23.4%. All right, so the S&P returned 23.4% over the past 3 years, apparently. I don't trust some of these AI numbers sometimes. This momentum doodah only returned 5.83%. So it had a good year last year. The S&P did, I think, 23% last year, and this did 32% last year. So, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? But, yeah. Key facts. Okay. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. Clearly, it's done all right at the moment. But yeah, I did. Like I said, I did do it in the past, and I stopped and went back to the normal stuff. But the way different ETFs get structured are always interesting to look at. Anyone know why Meta is so strong? Because there are more buyers than sellers, Nick. Look at that. Look at that. Breakout. It had earnings, didn't it? Anyone know why Meta's so strong? It's been on total rip-ups for days. I missed it, of course. Me and you too. I was waiting for the earnings to come out of the way. And we've had the earnings, and here it is. But that is, what a comeback story that is for Meta Facebook. It hit in April 21 or September 21. It hit 380 a share. Dropped to, less than $100 a share in November 22. And it's $700 plus now. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Buy it. Buy the dip. And the risk is the dip never happens. That's amazing, isn't it? Amazing one in Meta. But it does show you the benefits. It shows a couple of benefits. Why? I don't always say it, but taking longer term positions it's not guaranteed to make you money. but it's definitely a more sensible approach to trading than short term. We all talk about the short term stuff because it's exciting, but taking long, like S&P up 23% last year, trying to ride these bigger trends, Meta up 600% in 2 and a bit years. Trying to ride these bigger trends is definitely a much more sensible and low stress way of trading. Just going in for the bigger pull, trying to do that. But yeah, cracking performance. I buy the dip. The risk is the dip never happens. Pinterest. Yeah. I mean, it was boring and it's gone nuts. What'd you do to me? I look at something else. Yeah, I got nothing to say about that. It's a bit like Take Two. It's dramatic, isn't it? Because we can look and think, oh, if I only bought Pinterest yesterday. Yeah, but you didn't, did you? So move on to something else. So yeah, no interest in that for me until it all calms down a bit. Nvidia had a bit of a move, didn't they? Oh, not was it a drastic move? I'd have been a buyer of Nvidia. Someone asked in the WhatsApp group this week. I'd have been a buyer of Nvidia below 120 with a stop the other side of 100. So I think that's interesting if it dips back a bit next week. Euro dollar, we looked at those. Boeing, moving averages. Don't. I'm going to completely skip what you said about moving averages because I don't care. But that's interesting, isn't it? Boeing. I don't know. What would you do? There is absolutely an argument to be a buyer or a seller. Okay. The trend is down for a year on Boeing, so you could take the view. Okay, this bounce is just another rally before the price of Boeing collapses again. So sell short with stops above 200 would be one idea, or be a buyer because it's a recovery with stops below 164. And it's a great illustration. If anybody needs reminding, there are always two sides to every market. It's never clear cut that you should be a buyer or just be a seller. You can always construct an argument to be one or the other. I think it's harder in markets like gold for me because the trend is up. So obviously I want to be a buyer. But if you want to go short gold, now is the point to go short with stops above 2,900. If you thought the strength was going to run out of steam, I'd rather be a buyer. But no, Boeing is a good example that I don't know. I'd still be doing nothing. When in doubt, do nothing is very much my approach that I've learnt through losing money over the years. So for me, I do nothing on Boeing still. It's just a bit, I don't even know whether it's going to go up or down. Would love to see David Jones on a podcast interview talking about his career. Funnily enough, I did do that when did I do it? In December with somebody talking about trading and dipped in to bits of my career over the years. But the person I recorded the podcast with has left to go and work for somebody else. So that podcast is never going to see the light of day. So it's a shame actually because we discussed some good stuff in that podcast. So yeah, I have done it, but no, it's never going to appear. So my career is not that interesting anyway. I got into trading in the mid-90s. Always been fascinated with it since I was about 20. Never really understood it. Did the Society of Technical Analysts exams in 1995. I now lecture on the Society of Technical Analysts exam, so I'm one of the lecturers on that. Thought charts were the answer to everything. Clearly they're not. I mean, they obviously form a massive part of my trading, but it's not the be-all and end-all when it comes to markets. Risk management, position sizing, running positions, all far more important. Then I started in the trading industry, retail trading industry, with a broker in about 2005 till a couple of years ago and quit, and now do it for myself. So it's not that's it. Work for a few brokers. But if you watch some of those videos that I've done with Will Hardy, so Will Hardy has been in trading longer than me. So some of the videos I've uploaded the last couple of weeks, we do dip in and out of bits about the industry, and it's a massive change over the last 20 years. It is interesting. We've got more choice today than ever before. But, I think trading has been gamified. I think it is, I think there are lots of people today who trade who should go nowhere near trading, but that's a whole other video. So there you go. There's a potted history of my not very exciting career. But rewarding. Surely oil will bounce around the $70 price range. Yeah, maybe. Or actually, well, to be honest, You know, the lows from September were 66, weren't they? So it could go a lot lower, I think, the price of oil than here. I still think it's going to bounce, but I have been thinking that for 3 weeks. And I've completely... It's interesting, this. Again, the psychology of it all. That has been a screaming downtrend in oil, yeah? But I've been so obsessed with thinking the bounce is coming, I've not sold it. And the price of oil has gone from 80 to 71. You know, that's a big fall, isn't it? That's a 10% plus fall in oil. But I've been so obsessed with trying to call the bottom. I haven't actually done it. But, yeah, I've missed the downtrend. So what can you do? Let's see what happens with oil. CRH, Connors, that's the company we looked at the other week, isn't it? The Irish, is it building materials and Doodah from memory? Oof. Let's have a look on the dailies. What's it look like in the dailies? I mean, again, you know, the trend is absolutely up. I would be a buyer. The only question is, where does my stop go? If I was a buyer today, I put a stop the other side of 72. Is that 72? Or is that 72 euros? Or is it €7.20? Whatever it is, my stop would go at least the other side of there. Let's have a look. CRH, stock price, LSE. Let's get the absolute... Oh, it's pounds. Oh, there you go. Why was I talking about euros? Because I thought it's an Irish company, isn't it? And I was getting confused. So it's pounds. So it's currently trading around 84 quid a share. I'd put, you know, I'd want to be a buyer as usual. The only question is, do I wait to be a buyer? Wait for a dip, you know, like this dip back here, the old hindsight trade, buying them at 56 last summer. But the trend is up. So I'd probably be a waiter, wait and see what happens. Have they had some news out this week, some earnings or something that caused that move? Exit stake in Sigma or whatever. No, so yeah, trend is still up, and that is it. Take Two Interactive, we looked at those. Dassault Systems, are they some sort of aircrafty, defensey type company or something? Let's have a look at those. Dassault Systems. Oh, that's a bit of a funny old chart, isn't it? Dassault, maybe let's have a look at the other listing. Dassault Aviation, Dassault Systems SE. Oh, what's going on here? There's a lot of listings, isn't there? Which one's which though? Dassault Aviation, is that the same company? Can you just say which one it is? Because you can see here, I've got a load of them. If you can tell me which one I'm meant to be looking at, and if you know what market it's listed on, because there's London listings, there's Italy, Germany, and... Oh, hang on, what's this one? Oh, that's not the right one either. Tell me which one I should be looking at, and what the listing is, where it's listed. Blah, 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 blah. I'm glad you've enjoyed the videos with Will. Thanks for that. There's another one going out next Wednesday, I think. I'm going to do a midweek one, and we're going to start recording a whole new bunch again next week, so there'll be a whole lot more videos out with Will. Can we do copper? Yeah, we did do copper. On the hourlies, absolutely, I'd be a buyer. You know, because the trend is up. The trend has been up this month, or this week. Actually, this week. It's only been this week. So I'd be a buyer. Where does your stop go? I don't know. But for me, at the very least, below yesterday's low, which is 438. The only thing that would make me cautious about getting overexcited about copper is it's been in this sideways range on the dailies since July. So, you know, yeah, it's exciting. In the same way, if we go back to September, this move here was exciting. And it went up for a bit more, and then it just plopped back to the bottom of the range. So let's see what happens. You know, do we get a breakout in copper next week to 468? Let's see. You know, but it's definitely had a brilliant week, because it was you know, the low on Monday was 416, and here we are at 456. So it's up 10% on the week. So it's been a brilliant week. But yeah, let's see what happens. Uber. The popular ride-sharing company, Uber Technologies. Oof. What's happened with those then? At earnings this week. Surprise, 545%. That doesn't seem right. I think the maths is a bit wrong there. Whatever. I don't know. What do you think? Let's look at the dailies. I mean, it's all... If you look at the last 12 months, it's all a bit uninspiring, isn't it? you know, because it's just a bit sideways, isn't it? And nothing's really changed. I mean, it's exciting. It's been an exciting couple of days, isn't it? But it's all a bit blur, isn't it? The last 12 months. So I don't know. Don't know what I do. I do nothing. I go and buy Goldman Sachs. That's what I do. So yeah, it's not one for me, that one. So yeah, not too much going on there. Can we have a look at CLS? CLS. What's CLS? Celestica. Is that the one we're looking at? Listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Celestica. What do they do? Electronic technology, electronic components. What a great trend that's been. I mean, that is a lot of volatility, isn't it? And I always say I have a problem with these volatile stocks because where do you put your stop loss? So they traded to 86 in 27th of Jan, and they've touched 144 on Wednesday. I mean, that's massive. You know, they haven't quite doubled, you know, but it's a big move, isn't it? 70% move in a couple of weeks. I mean, what do you do? What do you do? I mean, the trend was up anyway. I don't even know what I'd do with that one. If I absolutely had to buy it today, I'd still want my stop at 108, which is a 20% stop. You know, that's only the low from this Monday. So it's a bit too crazy for me. I'm quite intrigued though. What's going on with Celestica to make their share price go so crazy? Electronic companies, their next stock price, blah, blah, blah. Record profits signal major growth ahead. There's a whole lot of blurb, but nothing actually that interesting. Oh, so they got knocked. That was the DeepSeek doodah. Okay, so the DeepSeek thing. Okay, I can see the DeepSeek Chinese AI knocked it a week last Monday. Yeah, I mean, I'd be a buyer, but where does my stop go? That's my problem. I'd rather things calm down a bit, but absolute, you know, and then the thing was in a trend anyway. It was in an uptrend. And if you looked at it before all the DeepSeek stuff kicked off, you know, it'd absolutely be a buyer because the trend was up. It's done really well, hasn't it? So 2023, they were $13. 2025, $121. Lovely, jubbly. That's that. Okay. DSY and it's French. Okay, DSY, the old Frenchies, Dassault Systems, Euronext, Paris. There we go. Okay, let's have a look at that. Bit boring, I'd say, for me. I mean, what would you do? What would I do? Nothing. It's a bit sideways, isn't it? You know, the range has been 31 euros to 48 euros. So with it trading at 40 euros, it's pretty much halfway up the range, isn't it? So I don't know what, I guess it's moved on some earnings or something, isn't it? What's it moved on? Yeah. I'd be tempted to go, if I had to do anything, I'd rather do nothing with Dassault Systems. I'd be tempted to go short, if anything, and say it's overshot. But for me, it's just all a bit rangy and a bit dull. I'd go and buy Goldman Sachs instead. What is Goldman Sachs doing? No, is that still going up? Oh, not quite. So yeah, that's it really. So we'll see. We'll see what happens next week. It's been an okay week for me. I was in the gold trade, so that was really good coming into this week. That's only a couple of dollars now away from fresh all-time highs again. Let's see what happens there. The gilts trade has done okay, but it's giving back profit now. Let's see what happens there. Next week would be interesting. Do we have a move to fresh all-time highs by US stock indices? They're already being a little bit nervous ahead of yesterday's highs, so perhaps not. Perhaps just a choppy week, but I'm sure there'll be stuff to do. So I'll start wrapping things up. Try the WhatsApp group. Use the code YouTube. You won't regret it. If you do regret it, you won't get your money back. But you should try it and see. And you can have a look at, I'll do that webinar in a couple of weeks' time on stock trading, and you'll have access to the last webinar from last month. To find out who I trade with, go to bit.ly/David Trade. Any questions, I'm more than happy to answer any questions on stuff. Drop me an email, dj@davidjonestrading.co.uk. I don't have all the answers, but I've done this for a long time, so I can always offer you an opinion. If there's any stuff you'd like covered in a future video with me and Will, you drop me an email, I'll put it in the comments of one of the other videos. We're going to cover prop trading at some point, which I am going to go on, I think, in my usual uninformed opinion, is, broadly speaking, quite a scam. But we'll talk about that. Will understands it a bit better than me. But yeah, I think it's one of the yet another of the various scams foisted on the trading public. But yeah, we're going to talk about that in a future video. But anything else you want covered, drop us an email. For those of you in the WhatsApp group, I'll do an update in the next hour or so. Have a look at some more stocks, see what's going on. Otherwise, see you next week. Next Friday? What's next Friday? Valentine's Day. How romantic. Oh, what a romantic way to spend a Friday afternoon looking at markets, okay? You bring the roses and I will bring the wine, all right? And we'll do it all next Friday. So until then, good luck with your trading and yeah, see you then.